Have you ever wished that you could travel along with a bird as it goes about its day, being able to see where it eats, where it hangs out, who it hangs out with, like when it wants to bathe or preen, and just like where it's doing all this stuff? Well, I know for me that sounds super exciting. And so today, during the mindful bird sit, we're going to get as close as we can to experiencing this with the birds, barring attaching like the world's tiniest GoPro to the bird's head. All right, I'm Kristi from Bird Mentor, where I help people connect more deeply with the birds and wildlife in their area. And this is the Mindful Bird Sit. If you enjoy your experience today or any of the previous sessions, please like and subscribe to this channel. It will help more people have access to these videos. All right, let's get started. Okay, so basically what we're going to do today is we are going to listen. So if you're sitting inside, it's good to be like sit close to a window so you can open them, because the idea, though we usually when we do listening skills, we can usually like it's okay to listen to inside house noises, and you could probably stretch it and do that today. But it would be really great to try to listen for the birds in your neighborhood. So as much as you can, see if you can crack a window so that you can try to stretch your ears to hear outside. If you have to be inside, if you're outside, perfect. And so Julia, what you had said last week or whenever it was, we were talking about sound, and we were listening to sounds. I forget the context of it right now of that last session, but you had said something along the lines of that you could hear the crows, or no, I think it was the crows or the jays, like were responding to the dog. It was the dogs barking. That's what it was. You heard your neighbor's dogs barking, and then another neighbor's dog barking, and you got to listen to them sort of like that. You knew that there was a dog and a person walking. Basically, you got to track it by what the neighborhood animals were responding to. And it just gave me this idea today of like something I would always love to do, which is to follow a bird, like wouldn't it be so fun to like sit on the bird's back, obviously if we were like miniature, and just sort of like follow that bird for the day and be like, where'd you go? What are you doing? Where are you sitting? And I think there is a way we can do that in like a mini version with our ears and being able to listen to where they're traveling and who they're traveling with by following them through their chip notes and their sounds and who else is around. So we're going to play with that a little bit today because I thought it would be fun. And I know some of you, I know the birds, especially up where Joy is right now, you're probably hearing less and less, but it really is at this time of year, the chip notes that are sort of our friends, that it's really good to connect more with. And just one last story, I'll say that just recently I started hearing the chipping sparrows. Oh, there's a little finch right there. Hi. I started hearing the chipping sparrows chip note. Um, and I realized I'd never listened to that before. I'd only waited for their song. And I, like in the wintertime, I would see them, but I wouldn't even really bother to listen to their chip note. It just was, it's really kind of, it's a quiet sound. And I guess I just never gave it much attention. And so, yeah, so today I'm inviting us to give some attention to these little chip notes that the birds make this time of year because they can tell us so much about them. All right, so let yourself get comfortable in your seat, again with the window cracked if you can. Take a sip of tea. Take a nice deep breath in. Oh, we're also going to get another little benefit since it's mostly ladies who come. I did this practice with another teacher the other day, and I was like, oh, this would be good for my gals. So something that all of us have to give some attention to at some point in our life. All right, so I'll bring that up in just a minute. So go ahead and just take a nice deep breath in and let it go. This time, one more deep breath in, filling your lungs completely. And then when you let it go, push all the air out. Push, 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 push. And then just let it flow back into you naturally, filling your lungs. And then you can let your breath fall back into a natural rhythm. We're going to control it in just a little bit, have a more steady, controlled rhythm right now. However, I think I am going to tap us into our ears and eyes before we do that, because anyway, just because. All right, so you can keep your eyes closed if they're already closed, and we'll just send our awareness out to our ears and then beyond. Stretching your sense of hearing as if it's like octopus tentacles, just stretching out further and further and further, feeling the landscape with your sense of hearing. Noticing who's around you in all directions. How far do those long arms of yours stretch? And those tentacles, the octopus, are so sensitive, so they can hear, or at least in our imagination right now, we're going to be hearing the soft, subtle sounds, as well as some of the more prominent, obvious sounds. So see if you can hear both while you're exploring one direction and then the next. Oops, sorry, I forgot to mute myself. Okay, nice work. Making sure that you're tapping into both the subtle sounds and then everything in between that and the loudest sound that you can hear right now. In the last moment, we'll stretch those tentacles far, 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 almost as if they could go miles and miles away. What's the very furthest sound you can hear in this moment right now? Sort of a wonderful, magical kind of experience to think that we can be tapped into, whether it's the people or the animals, really, really, really far away from us through our ears, bringing us closer to all those around us. So now you can gently open your eyes if you like. Allow your gaze to travel around really gently, just noticing if you happen to notice the leaves moving, maybe an insect, depending on what part of the continent you're on, maybe a bird, maybe the clouds. Just let your gaze travel, noticing who's around you. And then when you find a comfortable spot to give your attention to, maybe it's near, maybe it's far, you can just play with whatever you feel good with today. You're going to focus your attention on one particular spot. So really give all your attention to that one spot. Maybe it's a leaf, maybe it's a hole in the tree, whatever it is, a brick on the roof or on the house. And now imagining a ripple or a spiral extending further and further and further out from that one point. Allow your vision to expand in all directions, further and further. And how far can you stretch it? Above and beyond, or above and below, and then right and left. Sitting up nice and tall. And just noticing that as your vision becomes softer, does the rest of your body, does any part of your body start to soften as well? And just tapping into the world in a way that we often don't maybe make time for, giving ourselves this time right now to do so. So I did want to do one breath practice with you before we start with the listening, but keep your ears tuned in while we do this. And You can close your eyes as well. If you want to, you can keep them open, but it's a little bit easier to practice the kind of envisioning this with your eyes closed. So I want you all first to begin. We're going to tighten a muscle. And that's the muscle that you would tighten if you really needed to pee and you had to hold it, right? So we're going to tighten that muscle to start off with. We're going to be focusing our breath on different parts of our body. So it's going to be the area that's just right below your belly button, then right below your diaphragm, then your heart region, your throat, then kind of the area right between your eyes, and then the crown of your head. So I'll guide us through those different places. So what I want you to do is imagine, with your eyes closed, you can imagine a lotus flower as the big plane goes over. Imagine a big lotus flower that's just sitting at the base of your spine right now, sitting in that lower belly area. And it's slowly opening, this beautiful lotus flower. You can even imagine it having bright light if you'd like to. So we're going to start by tightening that muscle that I just mentioned. If you felt like you had to go pee, you're going to hold it, so really tighten that. And as you breathe in, we're just going to imagine that lotus flower opening and a bunch of light to fill that area, that first spot that we're going to pause with that lotus flower in our breath. And then when you exhale, you're going to release. So just relax your muscles, let everything go. And on the next inhale, first you're going to tighten that muscle. Inhale, and you're going to bring it up to your lower diaphragm area. Imagining that lotus flower traveling up your spinal cord and just opening and just shining some light in that area of your body. And then when you've completed your inhale, you'll exhale and just release your breath and release your muscles. And then your next inhale, tighten that muscle first. Inhale, go up to the next area, which is your heart. So traveling up to your heart, opening up that beautiful lotus flower. And exhale, letting it all go. Tighten that muscle again. Nice deep inhale. And now going up to your throat area, allowing that lotus flower, imagining it opening and light just shining in that area of your throat. And on your next breath, you'll just exhale and release everything, letting it all go. And then your next inhale, you're going to take that flower up to your spine. Imagine it traveling up to that area in the center of your eyes, allowing that light just to shine brightly and beautifully. And then exhaling, releasing everything. Go ahead and tighten that muscle for one more breath in. And that lotus flower is going to travel up to the crown of your head, just imagining this bright light shining, extending out further and further. And then on your exhale, you can release everything, letting it all go, allowing this beautiful light just to exist all around you right now. And so because this is a listening practice, we can keep our eyes closed if you like. And what I'd invite you to do is listen for the first bird sound that you can hear. And as if we were just a buddy traveling along with this bird, I want you to see if you can follow this bird as it travels around your landscape. Does it talk to anyone else? Can you hear where that voice is coming from? Maybe it's a song, maybe it's a call. But do your best to just listen and follow that one. Try to stick with that one for as long as you can. And if you need to switch to a different one, if that one's not being vocal anymore, that's okay. And also, if there are no birds talking at the moment, which I know for me right now, it's a very quiet time for the birds, just keep listening, because eventually a voice will arise. And if not, it's a perfect time just to practice quietness and stillness. So I'll let us stay quiet for at least the next good couple of minutes. One thing I will note is give yourself a good amount of time. If you hear one bird call, like I just heard a chickadee, and they might not talk again for another couple of minutes. So give yourself some time to stay with that one particular bird. Wait for it to call again, unless you think it's truly flown away. So, some of you may have already done this. You can still keep your eyes closed, listening to the birds around you. But if you think you can hold space for two different species, then you can listen for another one right now and see if you can follow it as it travels while you're also listening to your first friend if that one is still around. But if you want to just stick with one, then continue to stay with your original friend. As you sit with this one, see if you can identify what it's experiencing. Is there calm and peace? Is there some source of upset? Is there something else altogether? Maybe joy, maybe curiosity, maybe something else. And if you haven't already, you can go ahead and see who's interacting with whom. Maybe one of the birds you've been listening to is having some impact or effect on another one near it. Or maybe there's just some conversation that more than one bird is participating in. So see if you can connect with any of the relationships that are out there this morning. Oh, it's really easy to get lost in that world over there. So take the next little bit to offer blessing or gratitude to those ones that you connected with this morning. Okay, nice job, everybody. So, as always, if you have to go, thanks for coming and playing. And if you'd like to stay for our chat, then please do so. So, I'd love to hear any stories or insights, anything that came to you this morning or you experienced. Who would like to share? Yeah, Julia, go for it.
I can get it started. Well, I'm inside, but I cracked the window. And the first thing, not about birds, but the blowing of the heat was going on in one ear mainly, and the blowing of the wind in the other ear that was closest to the window. And we haven't had an actual hard freeze yet. So there are a lot of leaves still on. So the wind is really noisy. And so I thought, nah, no birds, no birds. And then there was a little chickadee, and it wasn't a chip, but a little more, enough that I knew it was a chickadee. It announced itself. And so I looked, and at that time, there were birds streaking across the yard. I mean, with great purpose, back and forth. And I thought, I wonder if that sound is related to that activity. First, I had seen a bird dropping down, I think, to the water feature, but then going back up, not lingering around. And these birds didn't linger around. I wondered, what it was. Could it be related? I did see finally a male cardinal on the fence, and they've been really chasing the other birds away from the bird feeders. This was not near a bird feeder, but I was wondering if maybe a cardinal was being territorial and causing this upset. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Wow, great questions there, Julia. I mean, I could dive in and say a little bit to that, but I think I want to leave you with that exploration because it sounds like a really great mystery to continue to travel with and see. And I feel like, just instantly I was deeply like with you in your place and the birds and in like a different level than I feel like we've not just with you, but like I know for me in listening in this way, it's like I'm a part of their world in a different way when I'm listening like this, and really like it's like you were picking up on real subtle, like a real subtle note, and like wondering if that was connected to the whatever was causing the birds to move swiftly across the yard, and maybe this specific little note that this chickadee was making was somehow connected, and yeah, there are so many, like, we talk about the alarm call and the song and, begging calls and things like the real basic general conversation of calls and songs. But there's so many other subtle sounds that the birds and gestures and behaviors of the birds can make that I think it takes doing work like this over and over again for us to be able to hear it, and it feels like you were hearing some of that this morning. Yeah, at least that's how it occurred to me anyway. Yeah, yeah. Well done. Nice job, Julia. Thanks. Yeah. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Anne, please. And then Gabrielle.
My birds were conversational this morning. I'm out away from the feeders, but I could hear them over, just the chickadees just talking. And then the Carolina wrens come in, and it wasn't alarming, but they were loud. to the buffet, and yeah, I could hear the nuthatches and stuff. But I have to tell you, I pulled a Kristi on my husband this weekend. We had taken a walk and it was getting really late, that kind of dusk where you kind of blink your eyes because you're not sure if it's dark or light or if it's cloudy. And we had an owl just kind of come out from behind us and swoop through an open grass area and move on through some trees. And we were both, oh wow, isn't this great? And we walked on to check on some equipment, and my husband went into the brush to, we have to look for mice and stuff. And the blue jays are screaming and yelling. I
Mm.
mean, and he came out and said, "Did you hear that? What are they so upset about?" And I said, "I don't know. Was that an alarm call? We were he's like, well, maybe they're upset at you." I said, "They came from down, but remember the owl?" And he was like, "Oh, do you think it was the owl?" And I'm like, "I don't know." But I was just like, but you had to think of all these things.
Yeah.
Were they upset at me? Were they upset at my husband?
Yeah.
Was the owl somewhere there that we couldn't see?
Yeah.
I think it was my husband because I was farther away and I knew right where they came from. But
Mm.
but I pulled a Kristi. I was like, well, what do you think they were trying to tell us?
Nice. That's so awesome. I love
So
where you went with that, Anne. That's awesome.
yeah, but as I said, but and sometimes all we can do is guess.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
we can make our best guess. And I had three plausible reasons why the Blue Jays were yelling. So,
Yeah.
but
Have they yelled at you guys in the past?
sometimes, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then, I mean, they yelled at me the other day when I walked down, but I'm thinking, is do I just kind of disturb them and then they go and take it out on somebody else, a squirrel or somebody? There's so much going on, but they, maybe they were sitting and getting ready to roost for the night. And my husband went into that brush area and disturbed them. Or maybe the owl did.
Yeah. Owls can cause a real ruckus. That's
Yeah.
especially right before bedtime for birds. That's
Mhm.
super upsetting. Imagine that, like, all of a sudden some dark, scary, human walks into your neighborhood or like right past your house. And,
Mhm.
it's like you have to go out. Let's say you have to pretend like you have to like walk down the street or something. You're like, you're going to go to your neighbors for some reason and you're planning on walking there. And all of a sudden you're just like, it's really unsettling. It's a very unsettling thing to think of, like someone that could take your life just decided to come in, and stay very close. That's a
I,
really upsetting thing. Yeah, but you're right. Like also being that it was so that dusky kind of time, having your husband where he was, or you, like it could have been you guys too. In a lot of ways, to a jay, I think that the owl is a much bigger threat, and sorry,
yeah.
and they know that, but I don't know, I wasn't there, but I love the
Yeah.
questions that you were asking, and I love that you were inspiring your husband to think more deeply about it too, because once you start asking these questions, it's like you can't really stop. Like once it's like you
Mhm.
just dropping that little snippet in there for him to ponder, it's gonna have like literally ripple effects, down the road. So how beautiful, what a beautiful experience. Yeah.
It was good. And he kept saying, remember that owl? Remember that owl Friday? Remember that owl? I'm
It's
like,
so
yes,
cool.
I know. And they're just, and it's not a hawk. It's like, so that's,
Wow. Wow. Right on, Ann. Thank you so much. That's great. All right, Gabrielle, you're up next.
Um, I was a little confused about what you were asking us to listen to. Was it a bird note or
Whatever,
a,
any bird sound. It didn't really
oh,
matter, but like mostly a lot of people this time of year are pretty much not 100%, but only hearing chip notes for the
chip
most part.
notes?
Yeah. So it's just like a little chip, chip. But there are some birds in some areas that are still singing. So some of you might still be hearing bird song where you are.
Okay. Well, I did hear both actually, but first was a songbird of some kind, and it was very close, but I couldn't see it. And so I was listening to that bird and then following it as it flew away. And the more distant it got, the more the human sounds came in. was really interesting. I hadn't really heard the human sounds. So I don't know if it was my perception or if it just got louder. And it was like, like leaf blowers and cars kind of in that started to come in. And then I started hearing in the way distance a conversation between this bird and the crows. And the crows they were all very much distant from here. And I thought, okay, there's a conversation. And then suddenly both the songbird and the crows were on my wires right above me, like half a dozen crows. And so it was very interesting that I was able to follow it. And then they came here. It's almost like the songbirds brought the crows here. I'm not sure. And then I could hear my cat. So I don't know, but it was very interesting.
Oh, it's similar to what, Julia was sharing just a moment ago, where like I really feel like I was there with you in your sharing of that, but also like what I am just experiencing through all of you and my own experience is like I feel like there's this deeper level of like when we listen like this, like we really do get to be a part of their experience in a way that I haven't experienced before without listening like this. So anyway, like the fact that you were following them, it's like we get at like a more whole picture, I think is what I'm hearing. There's like a more whole picture versus just like, oh, there's a sound here and a sound there and a sound there and whatever. But when we just try to follow one, it's like we're following the story. There's like a story that's evolving and emerging that I'm hearing in what you were just sharing. And I love that they all kind of wrapped at your house on your wires. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. That's the best. All right, who else wants to share any story emerging? Yeah, Susie, please.
So for the longest time, I didn't hear anything, no birds, not the wind or anything. Then all of a sudden I hear a crow. I knew it was a crow, but it was making a soft sound. But usually I hear the real loud nasal crows that make me feel agitated. But this crow didn't. It was very a gentle sound, and then it changed pitches, like it was talking, saying words or. I only heard the one crow for the longest time, and it just made me feel like I kind of like crows. It didn't make me feel agitated this time. Or this crow didn't seem agitated. It was kind of like mumbling or softly. It was just something different. I kind of like that crow now. But it was talking. I don't know if it was communicating with another one, because I just don't know, because I couldn't see them. And I don't know, it could have been another crow there, but I don't know. I just seemed to hear this one crow. And then when you said we could look, I couldn't find the crow. So yeah. So it was a nice experience.
1 second, there's a loud plane going overhead. There's a lot of air traffic today, more than usual. I'm like so curious. I'm like, I guess it is the Monday before Thanksgiving, and there's literally like two planes back to back right there. I'm like, I think there was like 7 or more planes while we were like having this sit. And normally there's like 1 or 2 that goes over. But I was like, maybe everyone's like they took like the week off or something, and now they're all flying their little planes and whatever. So, but anyway, Susie, what I wanted to say to that was, yeah, I like to think of that, or at least I've called that before, like sweet talk. So it's something that corvids will do, like the crows, the jays, the ravens, like most all corvids have this sweet talk that they do. And I love how you said that it didn't feel agitated to you, because when they sweet talk, they really do have to feel comfortable and safe to do that. And so, and it really is, it's usually when they're just like quiet, they're resting. And typically I think I've had one experience where I heard a jay do that when there wasn't another one around, but I feel maybe I just didn't see it, kind of like what you're saying. I feel like it's conversation with another, whether it's like their partner or a sibling or like some member of their family that they're just sort of sweet talking to, you know? And for us to be able to hear that, we have to be in a similar state of quiet and calm. Number one, for them to feel safe that we're close enough to hear it, because it is a very quiet sound. So in order for you to hear that, like, they have to be relatively close to you. And for a corvid to be relatively close to you, either there's like, you know, a buffet right below you that you've just served them, you know, but even then they're pretty cautious. Or you're in a place where they're okay with your presence, and so okay that they start to sweet talk around you. And it can be a really just heartwarming and lovely experience. And it feels like you now have this really lovely connection with that crow and your land.
Hmm. Are you saying speak talk or sweet talk?
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Like a
Spell that.
SWEET.
Oh, you are like a sweet,
Yeah.
it's like a sweet spot. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was like. It was
It is.
sweet.
That I know, right? That's why I was just like, it just feels sweet. There's like something sweet about it whenever you hear it, you know? Yeah. It's like little whispers. You're like, you know, it's just this little like sweet sounds are coming out of them. Yeah. And I love that too, that it shows us another side of the corvids, because a lot of people do have an experience of corvids as being like raucous and loud and annoying and obnoxious, you know, but it's just like there's many faces to the corvids, you know. Yeah. Um Play number 12. Anyone else have a story that they want to share from this morning? Yeah, please, Joy, go for it.
Well, I was listening to the blue jay, but not any calls or anything like that. He was um, cracking open his peanuts quite close to me, and then I was able to also follow his wing beats when he went back to the feeder and got another peanut. So I was able to follow him quite along like that. But then when we opened our eyes, I sort of went off on a tangent because I had a hairy woodpecker on a suet feeder here and was watching that for a few minutes. And then there was a mourning dove underneath, and I sort of got off on thinking about um, the relationship between the species of birds, and the hairy woodpecker was pecking at the suet feeder, and little bits of seed and suet were falling on the ground, and there was the mourning dove feeding on those. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and the relationship and how one helps the other one out really in that way. So that was my experience this morning.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because when I went out to ask what I was going to talk about this morning, the thing that came like right in front of my face was this little spiraling, you know, those maple seeds that spiral down. I think it's a maple seed, but it was like, it's really tiny. So maybe it's a species I'm not familiar with. I actually looked to see where it came from, and I was like, what tree is this from? But anyway, it's really tiny, and it just sort of like spiraled down like right in front of my face. And I was like, oh, well, there must be some message in this. And I was trying to like listen, you know, see what there could be in that. And nothing was really coming to me. But then I thought this idea of just that maybe it's not always just the seed just falling, but you know, the birds are eating those seeds right now too. And sometimes when we see these little ones falling, it's like that's because a bird was just up there, you know, grabbing the seed, and then the little papery sheath, you know, whatever that is, the propeller starts to fall. And so I was thinking of that, of maybe like doing something with you guys to like, I don't know, watching for things like that falling or whatever. But that one wasn't as inspiring. But I love that you shared that, because that really was sort of like the beginning of my thought process for all of this today, was this connection with the seeds falling and the birds and what they're eating, and sort of wondering about that connection with, you know, the ones that start off up in the trees and end up on the ground. And yeah, and it's true. Like we get to see that at feeders, it's easier to see it. You know, it's like more immediate, the reaction from, you know, the birds that eat at the feeder and like make a big mess. But it's like okay, because you got the juncos and everybody else on the ground that are benefiting from that. You know, um, but up in the, it's interesting because I was watching these. I think they were the white crowned sparrows eating like in the shrubs this morning when I was out there, and it was really hard to see them because they were really tucked in, like down low on the ground. And now I'm just wondering, like, I wonder if, you know, they weren't feeding up in the trees, they were feeding on the ground. And so I wonder if they were actually feeding on some of these seeds that the other birds, maybe the wind has loosened. And yeah, you got me thinking a lot about that right now, Joy. Thank you. That's great. All right, anyone else? Stories emerging? Okay, well, we will not be meeting next week because I will be on my way to New Mexico with our crew of folks traveling to New Mexico for our retreat. I'm going to head down there a couple days early, and we're going to do some scouting and preparing, getting things ready for everybody. So we won't meet. I think it might actually be 2 Mondays. Did I tell you guys this already? Let me just double check. Let me look at my schedule. Just a moment.
Well, quick, Kristi, I would be on your trip, but I'm going to be out in California in Pacifica,
That's
north
nice.
of Della. I'm dog and cat sitting. So I'm going to go on an adventure. I check the tide things in the morning and I can walk to the mountains in the afternoon. So yeah,
Wow.
that was scheduled. So I'm going to be doing some exploring out west myself. So
That's awesome, Anne. I
yeah,
love knowing about that. Yeah.
yeah.
Have you checked any of the eBird sites in your area at all?
I haven't yet. I know. I mean, that's I just I'll have to. They live right down Pacific State Beach. I'm like 1 mile from the coast, and you go a mile the other way, and I'm in the the forest. So I
Wow.
don't think I'm going to have any problem finding
Yeah.
things
Della,
to do.
are you familiar with that area, Della, or is
Yep.
that not near you much?
That's up north
Just
from me. I'm in Monterey.
Okay.
she's about
Monterey
three about
Peninsula.
3 hours north.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about 3 hours, right?
Okay, okay. I wasn't sure if you might have had like a good tip for a place, but you're right. I mean, and like you're not going to have any shortage of amazing and just new species and new
I
adventures.
whale watching and
Yeah.
all the other things that they've got a few spots the kids do that they recommend. So
Okay,
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good. Well, have a great journey. Well,
You guys too, because I when that came up, I went, I'm already booked, you
I
know.
know, I know. Well,
But
next time.
this is free room and board.
Yeah. And you're in California. Come on, that's
That's
awesome.
right. I'm babysitting dogs and cats. It's not like kids. I can,
Yeah. No,
I'll feed them. I say, hey, I'll be back in a couple hours. See ya.
that's so good. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did check my schedule, so it's going to be the next 2 Mondays. So we won't be sitting. But here's the cool thing. The one I think when we come back, let me just double check this again because I moved the date. All right, it's not I think because well, no, it is sort of technically. I should move it up. Technically, on the 16th, it's December 16th, is going to be our 100th bird sit. So since we started doing the bird sit, and some of you, I don't know if anyone's come to like all of them. I'm sure someone had to miss one or two here or there, but um, basically, I think online. I think I forgot to post. I forgot to post the last one, so technically it's still going to show like number 99. But somewhere between this one and the 16th and like the 23rd is going to be the 100th bird sit. So I thought that would be nice to just sort of have like a big woohoo. You know, that's a lot of bird sitting. Yeah, and it's showing, it's paying off. Like all of you are doing some. I actually kind of want to show you guys something. Do you have an extra minute? Does anyone have a minute? How many people were able to? Did anyone come to the talk I did last week? The Texas A&M thing? No. Okay, then I was. If all you had gone for some reason, I wouldn't show you guys this, but it doesn't seem like you did. So I'm just going to show you this slide that I did for them. Um, and this is sort of something I'm playing with right now. Let me just pull it up. And yeah, at some point, we don't have to talk about it today, but I'd be curious to hear what you all think. But it's just this idea of, let me just grab it. Here it is. Okay. Let's see, we'll do present, shrink. Oh, share. Sorry, I'm gonna do share. Present. We'll just go present. Okay, and now I'm ready to share. Okay, let me get here to you guys. Zoom. Sorry, there's always like all these steps. All right. Share, and we'll go full screen. Okay, can y'all see that? Oh, I guess I do have to push. Okay, so basically, like, there are these layers I was sharing. This was like in the middle of the presentation. I have this concept about these layers of intimate connection. And the first is knowing the bird's name. You know, when you first get into birds, you're just like, oh yeah, that's the bluebird, you know? It's like, oh, that's so exciting. I know a bluebird, you know? And then you go a little bit deeper and you start hearing some of the basic sounds, like I was mentioning before, like the songs, the calls, the alarms. And it's just that's an accomplishment in and of itself. It's like being able to know that the difference between them, right? From just hearing them to knowing to distinguish them. Then you get a little bit deeper in and more intimate in your connection with the birds, and you start to understand what these sounds mean, right? Then you go a layer even deeper and you start to hear the advanced sounds, which is another reason I wanted to share this with you today, because a lot of you were hearing this today. And that is the intimate sounds, like the jay sweet talking, the subtle sounds, the silences that occur when like a predator is nearby, and a lot more of the subtleties that happen. And then, again, apologies for plane number 27. You start to have this instinctive connection develop, you know, once you've sort of gone through these layers of intimacy and connection with the world, where you start to instinctively understand or instinctively know what's about to happen or what is happening. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys today, because I really feel like a lot of you, by doing this on a regular basis, you know, you've gone from simply knowing the bird's name and hearing the sounds to now being able to hear some of these more advanced, intimate sounds. And then at some point, eventually, and some of you already have, starting to have more of the instinctive connection with the wild right outside your door. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you all. Yeah, for
That
sure.
was
For sure.
very cool, very fascinating.
You very, yeah,
Yeah,
very nice to see that. Thank you.
sure. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm just playing with it right now, and we'll see what, if anything else emerges, you know, if there's other layers to it that I forgot or whatever. But it kind of came to me. One, I think people, you know, you all doing the bird sit helps me to see this, and just my own experience and connecting with nature and whatnot, and sort of what's happened for my own evolution with it, you know. But yeah, it's really impressive to hear some of the things that you all are hearing now, because it's just like right on, you know. I feel like you all are having this really beautiful, deep, rich connection, and if that's like the most beautiful thing that can start to happen for people, is that we can really start to have that connection with the world again, you know. Yeah, beautiful thing. So until next time, which will be a couple weeks from now, I hope you all have a really beautiful couple of weeks. I will also, in the next 2 days, to get ahead of all of the Black Friday stuff, I'm gonna send out. I'm offering this really great deal on the birdsong class. So the class is not until March, but we're offering a really great discount right now for like the holiday discount time. And so I'll be sharing that with, I shared it with the people who are on the wait list first, and now I'm going to share it with everyone else. So you guys will probably get an email in the next couple of days about that for anyone who wants to jump in on that. And we already have a handful of folks from the presentation last week that have signed up. So it's going to be an exciting class this year. Yeah. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time. Some of you I'll see in just in a week, and others it'll be a couple more weeks. And have a beautiful trip. And anyone else who's doing whatever else you're doing in your life, have just a wonderful time doing it, and keep sitting. And yeah, can't wait to see you when we get back.
You too, Kristi. Have a wonderful
All right.
birding experience.
And that's you, Linda.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay.
I was wondering is if there have been studies whether for birds it's better to just hunker down when it's really windy and cold, or to expend the extra energy it probably would take to go out and get food.
Well, there was a study that was done. It was a terrible study. I think I've referenced it maybe before to you all, or I don't know, the master's group or something, but it was done in like the 20s or 30s maybe, where they starved a bunch of different birds to see how long they'd live without food. And can you guess how long a songbird could live? And I think it was like 0 degrees with no food. How long could a songbird survive for?
One day,
Yeah, it's like 6 hours or something. It's like a crazy short amount of time, like 12 hours, I think it is actually. That's like the resting time basically. So yeah, in 0 degrees, like they have to be eating all the time. So it was like for us, we'd be like, no, let's stay inside and be warm. But they're just like, I gotta live, you know? I mean, it's really what it's like to, if anyone's ever experienced, I would recommend it to anybody, but practicing this and playing in sort of like the world of survival skills. If you've ever been out on a survival trip before where you literally have to, hunt or catch or whatever, gather your food, it takes so much energy. And like if you don't have food for, I mean, for humans, we can survive for 30 days without food. And so can the big birds, like the owls and hawks and certain hawks and turkeys. I think the turkey was one of the ones they starved for 30 days. But they can live for longer periods without food, but the small little songbirds. But yeah, like after just, I know for me when I've done it before, like after just like, even just like a day or so without food, like all of my energy started to like just decrease. And it was like I had less energy to do the things I needed to do, which like to hunt or gather or whatever. And so if you don't keep up your energy stores, then like your ability to hunt, your ability to like be agile, to move from danger and all that stuff just diminishes. And so you're a lot more susceptible to not surviving if you don't keep up your energy reserves. And we don't really have to experience that in our modern world. We don't understand, that idea of like true survival, Yeah. Yeah, but that's a great question, Julie. I know a lot of people think about that as it starts to get colder, and we want to be inside more. I totally understand that. That's why one reason why I'm here in the warm, warm South Carolina in the wintertime.